Replies from the Ministry. Minister Dr. Tan See Leng.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the GPC MPs and the others who spoke in support of our workers and our businesses. Over the past 2 years of battling COVID, our manpower policies focused on shoring up local employment and keeping foreign workforce policies responsive. We supported businesses in hiring and investing in the skills of a wider pool of job seekers and helped many job seekers moved into new opportunities. Through updated work pass requirements, we also ensured local-foreign complementarity and spurred business transformation. These efforts helped mitigate the impact of COVID and facilitated the recovery of our economy. Despite a slight dip in 2020, the median gross monthly income of residents has risen to above pre-COVID levels. Resident unemployment rate has come down from the high of 4.8% to 3.2% today. We are cautiously optimistic, given the Ukraine war, that it will fall back, the unemployment will fall back to pre-COVID levels in the months ahead. To capture the opportunities created by a recovering global economy, businesses are starting to increase their hiring. For the full year 2021, total employment saw an encouraging rebound of 40,800, close to 41,000. We want to provide the necessary support and incentives to restructure our workforce so that we can emerge stronger. We want to build an inclusive and comprehensive labour market where businesses can access the manpower needed for their growth and where continued growth leads to a more equitable and progressive society. The recovering economy provides a better and a firmer footing to do so now. If we get this with surgical precision and the right timing, in Chinese is 天时地利人和, Singapore will be a top global city, brimming with opportunities for our businesses and our people. Against this backdrop, MUM's priorities will focus on the 3 ups: upgrade, uplift, and uphold. The first focus is to upgrade the capabilities of locals and the complementarity of foreigners. We will strengthen support for locals so that they are equipped with the skill sets to take on jobs of the future. Through our foreign workforce policies, we will ensure our businesses have access to the complementary manpower that they need. Manpower, not power. For our growth to be sustainable, we must ensure every Singaporean worker benefits from Singapore's growth and no one is left behind. Hence, our second focus is to uplift our vulnerable workers and mature workers. We will implement the recommendations from the tripartite work group on lower wage workers and double down on our efforts to uplift these workers. SMS Zaki will elaborate more in his speech. SMS Co will share our approach to uplifting self-employed persons and strengthening support for mature workers. Finally, every one of us desires a fair opportunity to contribute and to thrive at work, which brings me to our third focus, to uphold inclusive and progressive practices at the workplace. We will continue to support our workforce to meet caregiving needs at home, to support their mental health and well-being. Minister of State Gan Xiao Huang will elaborate more in her speech. And we will continue with efforts to transform the migrant worker ecosystem, to improve their physical, their social, and the mental well-being. This will further be covered by SMS Co later on in his speech. Now, let me start by sharing how we intend to upgrade the capabilities of locals and complementarity of foreigners. I will spend the bulk of my speech today elaborating on this segment. As mentioned, SMS Co, SMS Zaki, and MOS Gan will elaborate further on our other 2 focus areas. Structural shifts in the economy means new growth opportunities for our businesses and workers. As highlighted in the cuts by Mr. Desmond Chu and Mr. Dennis Tan, some of the shifts include the greening and the digitalization of our economy. The green economy is an area of growth that we are taking very seriously. As Minister Gan shared earlier, we have developed a whole-of-government green economy strategy, which looks into the jobs and skills that will be transformed and created as a result of the green transition. It is thus important that our workers are equipped with the necessary skill sets to thrive in this fast-changing environment. Helping our businesses to transform and preparing our workers for the future of work have been long-standing priorities for this government. Since 2016, we have rolled out industry transformation maps, or ITMs, for 23 sectors to chart their transformation journey. As Minister Gan shared, the government is working closely with industry stakeholders, unions and academia to update our ITMs to address emerging trends and opportunities. In 2021, we announced that job transformation maps would be launched to map out the impact of technology and digitalization on individual jobs over the medium term. These provide very detailed job-level insights to help businesses and workers prepare for future jobs and skills. To support our scale-up of these programs, I set up the Job Task Force in September last year to derive strategies to increase the placements of local workers into our key sectors, such as ICT, manufacturing, and financial services. For example, our career conversion programs, or CCPs, support employers to reskill job seekers and workers for in-demand job roles. They provide targeted support to workers whose job roles might be at greater risk of redundancy. One such individual is Mr. Cheng Kim An, a 30-year-old who previously worked on aircraft maintenance. He has just completed his degree in mechanical engineering and wanted to seek out opportunities in the aerospace sector when COVID hit. He re-evaluated his career options and he came across a job opening with a manufacturing and equipment engineer with Micron Technology. To help Mr. Cheng assimilate into his role, the company put him on the career conversion program for the electronics sector in November 2020. During the 3-month program, Mr. Cheng was introduced to the processes in the semiconductor industry which he had to apply in his new job role. Coupled with the on-the-job training provided by the company, Mr. Cheng quickly picked up new skills required for the industry and moved on to learning more advanced skills. During the pandemic, the SG United Jobs and Skills Package and the Jobs Growth Incentive were introduced as extraordinary measures to preserve human capital and to expand local hiring. All these initiatives helped to cushion the impact of COVID on the labour market and provided much needed relief for the businesses to meet their manpower needs. More than 174,000 local job seekers have been placed into jobs and skills opportunities as at end December 2021. All in all, a total of $11 billion has been allocated to support these initiatives. As announced by the Minister for Finance, we will continue to provide support for businesses and worker segments such as mature workers. However, moving forward, we will be tailoring our support levels in line with the improved economic and labour market situation, and SMS Koh will elaborate further in his speech. Ultimately, support for workers will require a whole-of-society effort. I urge all of our businesses, all of our employees to support our efforts to help you and to help you better and further. The government will always provide the necessary support for businesses, but businesses must be willing to set aside time and resources to train up the local workforce, and employees must also be willing to reskill and to upskill. The support for businesses under the ITMs is complemented by our foreign workforce policies. Foreign workforce policies are key levers to keep our labour market tight and incentivize businesses to transform, to move up the value chain, and to maintain their competitive edge. Let me move on now to our foreign workforce policies. Last September, we debated extensively on the issue of foreign manpower in this House. Parliament affirmed the need for Singapore to stay open and connected to the world, and for the government to continue updating its policy levers to secure the well-being and the livelihoods of our people. MOM has been working steadily on a review of our foreign workforce policies. We remain committed to our goals of upgrading our workforce, comprising a strong Singaporean core and a high-quality and diverse foreign workforce. After careful deliberation and extensive consultation with our tripartite partners, we are ready to make several important updates to our Work Pass framework. The updates aim to achieve the following. 1. To bring in a higher quality foreign workforce with specialized skills, networks, and expertise to complement our local workforce. 2. To support employers that invest in reskilling their workers and the transfer of capabilities to build a strong Singaporean core. 3. To ensure diversity in our foreign workforce, because a truly open and connected labour market must also be able to draw the best from all around the world. And 4. To drive productivity growth while keeping our reliance on foreign labour at a sustainable level. Above all, these updates will ensure that Singapore can continue to remain open and connected to the world. As borders start to reopen and labour demand picks up, I want to lay out the roadmap for these changes, which will be phased in gradually. This is to give businesses the certainty they need to plan ahead as they gear up for growth. Let me start with the Employment Pass, or EP. At the EP level, we need to bring in highly skilled foreign professionals as part of a strong team of locals and foreigners to grow our economy and to create more good jobs. Hence, we do not set quotas or levies on EPs. Instead, we focus on ensuring quality. As announced in the budget statement, we will aim to ensure that EP holders are comparable in quality to the top 1/3 of our local PMET workforce. To do so, we will set a benchmark for the EP qualifying salary based on the top 1/3 or the 65th percentile of local PMET wages. And we will revise our EP qualifying salaries based on this benchmark. The EP minimum qualifying salary will be revised from $4,500 to $5,000 per month. For the financial services sector, which has higher wage norms, this will be revised from $5,000 to $5,500. Given that the local PMET wages rise with age, the qualifying salary will also rise with age to reflect the years of work and experience. To give businesses sufficient time to adjust, these changes will apply to new EP applications from September 2022. The new EP applications from 1st of September this year, 2022, and to renewal applications from 1st September 2023. We know and we empathize that the labour market for skilled workers is sufficiently tight. So this latest move is not intended as a tightening measure. Instead, it is part of the Ministry of Manpower's regular updates to ensure that our qualifying salary keeps pace with local wage growth, so that foreigners are not coming in just because they are cheaper than local PMETs. As this is a regular updating of our policy, most EP holders will not be impacted by these changes because they earn today well above the qualifying salary. There are, however, some EP holders who do not meet our quality bar. This group, they will be impacted. But this is how we constantly ensure that we maintain a high-quality EP stock that complements our local workforce. More importantly, we have also set a clear benchmark for the qualifying salary so that our businesses will have greater transparency, clarity, and predictability on how it will be adjusted in future. Businesses should expect regular updating of the qualifying salary to keep pace with local wage trends. And we will, of course, consider prevailing economic conditions when making a decision to update the qualifying salary and provide sufficient lead time before each change is effected. While the qualifying salary is simple to understand and easy to administer, it is also a blunt tool. There are limits to relying solely on it to select complementary foreign talent. Mr. Liang Eng Hua and Mr. Yip Hon Wing would like to know whether other factors could be taken into account to more holistically assess a candidate's complementarity. This is something that MON has considered and studied carefully for quite some time. We are now ready to introduce a new complementary assessment framework called COMPASS. COMPASS is an acronym. The COM stands for complementarity, and then the assessment framework, COMPASS. Now, COMPASS is a point-based system that considers both individual and firm-related attributes to holistically evaluate an EP applicant's complementarity. It is designed to be a transparent system so that businesses have clarity and predictability for manpower planning. The NTUC SNEF PME Task Force recommended a point system for EPs last year. Mr. Patrick Tay has also raised this earlier. I'm glad that there is strong tripartite support for COMPASS. With the introduction of COMPASS, the future EP framework will comprise 2 stages. First, applicants must meet the EP qualifying salary. Second, they must also score sufficient points under COMPASS in order to qualify for an EP. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, may I ask the clerks to distribute a copy of the handout on the COMPASS construct, please?
Please do.
Members may also access these materials through the SG Parliament MP mobile app. Now let me briefly explain how COMPASS will work, and rest assured that all the details will come later. If I could ask members to refer to the first page of the handout under the section How COMPASS Works. Under COMPASS, EP applications will be assessed based on four foundational criteria. The candidate's salary relative to local PMET wages in their respective sectors. The candidate's qualifications, the firm's national diversity and whether the candidate improves the firm's national diversity, and the firm's support for local employment compared to their industry peers. So these are term criterion 1 to 4 or C1 to C4. Beyond these 4 foundational criteria, we are mindful of 2 scenarios that warrant special attention. One, where the candidate possesses skills that our workforce has a shortage of, such as AI developers and cybersecurity specialists. Our locals may have such skills, but we do not have sufficient locals to fulfill the demand. 2, if the firm is undertaking ambitious innovation, hub or internationalization activities in partnership with the government in line with our strategic economic priorities. In such cases, it would be in Singapore's interest to allow the firm to bring in this candidate. So we will accord bonus points for these 2 areas, and these are termed C5 and C6. MOM will work closely with our tripartite partners, NTUC and SNEF, and economic agencies to assess industry needs so that COMPASS is kept current and responsive. An EP application that meets expectations on the 4 foundational criteria would pass COMPASS. On the other hand, if an application fares below expectations in certain foundational criteria, it needs to make up for it by exceeding expectations on other foundational criteria or by scoring bonus points. All of the criteria, they are tradable. None is a veto factor. So let me give you an example. Consider a firm in the IT sector that scores below expectations on both support for local employment and diversity. It has a low PMET share relative to its industry peers and is bringing in another candidate whose nationality is already overrepresented in its firm. If the EP candidate only meets expectations on salary and qualifications and is performing a generic job role, the application will not score enough points to pass. However, if the firm is bringing in a candidate in an area where skills shortages exist, the application could make up for it with bonus points. Alternatively, the firm can hire a candidate from a nationality that improves its diversity and exceed expectations on diversity. Then this will allow the candidate to pass. In this way, Compass incentivizes firms with a weaker workforce profile to strengthen their local workforce and diversify, so as not to be disadvantaged. At the same time, it still allows them to access highly complementary EPs in areas where skills shortages exist. Members of the House, let me be clear. Compass is not designed to make it harder for businesses to obtain an EP. A good majority of applications today would not have issues because this demonstrates that our businesses in general are progressive and our policies thus far have brought in complementary EP holders. Some firms, however, would need to make adjustments under Compass, and they would know exactly which areas to improve on and how to respond accordingly, given the transparency, clarity, and predictability of Compass. SMEs may be concerned about what Compass means for them. Will they be disadvantaged relative to bigger firms? We recognize that for smaller firms, their workforce ratios can change significantly and drastically with only a few personnel changes. Hence, for this practical reason, firms with less than 25 PMATs will automatically be scored as meeting expectations on firm-related attributes. Some may notice that the firm-related attributes under Compass are considered as part of MOM's Fair Consideration Framework or FCF watchlist today. Compass builds on our current efforts under the FCF by applying these considerations upstream at the point of application. Businesses will have clarity on what these considerations are. Once Compass is fully rolled out, the FCF watchlist will be repurposed to focus on engaging businesses that score poorly on firm-related attributes. We will walk with these firms. We will help them to strengthen their workforce profile and to adjust to the new framework. Mr. Patrick Tay will be reassured that even with the changes to the FCF watchlist, MOM continues to take fair consideration seriously. The FCF job advertising requirement will continue to apply. Employers must practice fair consideration in their selection of candidates, and MOM will not hesitate to take action against employers who are found to be discriminatory. We are also working on plans to enshrine existing fair employment guidelines into workplace fairness legislation. We recognize that the introduction of Compass is a significant change, and companies will need sufficient time to adjust to it. Hence, Compass will come into effect for new EP applications from 1st September 2023 and for renewal applications from 1st September 2024. I've come from the private sector myself. I fully understand and appreciate the importance of transparency. Following this announcement, we will publish the Compass scoring rubric on MOM's website. We will progressively roll out educational materials and further details on specific criteria. When Compass is in place, employers can use the pre-assessment tool to obtain a balanced scorecard, BSc, of how each application fares prior to submission so that they know what areas they must improve in. In summary, we've designed Compass to be balanced and to be reasonable. For employers, they will find that the system is responsive to industry's needs and easier to navigate with a transparent, predictable, and clear framework. It also recognizes their efforts to build up a strong local pipeline and to maintain a diverse foreign workforce. For our local workforce, they will have greater confidence that the EP holders here are of a high caliber and will better complement their teams. And that their employers will also take efforts to develop their local pipeline and to maintain workforce diversity seriously. And lastly, for Singapore, Compass will allow us to remain open to complementary talent in short supply here so that we can grow our frontier industries to bring us into the next stage of growth. Now, based on his cut, Mr. Leong Man Wai continues to assert that the government's policy is poor because its statistics are poor. As Minister for Finance said in his roundup speech, we get the sense that the persistent requests coming from him for more information are red herrings. They're distractions from the key problem at hand. During the 6th July ministerial statement, I had already shared that the majority of local PME growth over the last decade went to Singaporeans born in Singapore. I repeated this in Parliament in September and stated that this is the same for PMETs. But Mr. Leong persists in drawing these divisions, asking for statistics to splitting between original citizens, new citizens, and permanent residents. I've also alluded at that particular point in time that as a society, we should not constantly be drawing such lines. Many of our new citizens and PR share family ties with Singaporeans, or they've studied, they've worked, they've contributed, and they've also lived here for some time. They contribute to our strengths as a society and as an economy. Singapore is an immigrant nation, and openness is one of our society's core strengths that has defined who we are. I urge Mr. Leong, have a care. Please don't undermine the cohesiveness we have painstakingly built over the years. And please ask people who share your point of view to also have a care for the rest of us. Let me emphasize once again, Singapore is and Singapore will always be committed to remaining open to foreigners who complement our local workforce and who are able to add vibrancy to Singapore's economy. For the framework, we think deeply, we consult widely, because we know that whatever we do, whatever we implement will have a significant impact on businesses, on locals, and on Singapore. And once we're confident that our proposals are sensible and implementable, we move. That is why we've earlier on also rolled out schemes such as Tech at SG and Tech Pass to meet strong demand for skilled workers in the tech sector. Compass will buttress these schemes to facilitate access to complementary talent. We have also received feedback from employers who are concerned about bringing in young, high-potential employees. These are big global firms who have international rotation programs where they send both foreign and local employees for overseas postings to gain exposure. We will make sure that our EP framework has the flexibility to allow for such rotations. Therefore, we are piloting the Global Rotation Scheme. This scheme will facilitate the entry of high-potential employees from abroad. But in return, these companies must also post our local Singaporeans abroad on the same leadership development program. We are starting with a small group of firms, and we will expand the scheme once we work out the full details. Now, at the S-Pass level, foreign workers perform specialized technical roles. These are skilled jobs with good opportunities, with many of our polytechnic and IT graduates have an interest in. We want to continue to ensure that our locals have a level playing field to take up these roles, and that S-Pass holders are coming in to fill skill gaps, and not just because they are cheaper. We also want to spur transformation and job redesign efforts. And this is why we have in place controls for the S-Pass, namely qualifying salaries, levies, and quotas. As announced, we aim to ensure that S-Pass holders are comparable in quality to the top one-third of the local associate professionals and technicians or APT workforce. How much a firm is willing to pay is a practical indicator of the quality of the S-Pass holder. Thus, we will benchmark the cost of hiring an S-Pass holder to the top one-third of the local APT wages. We will raise both the S-Pass qualifying salary and levies to reach this benchmark. This is a bigger change compared to the EP salary criteria. So we will move towards this goal over 3 steps to moderate the impact to businesses. As a first step, we will raise the S-Pass minimum qualifying salary from the current $2,500 to $3,000 and introduce a higher S-Pass qualifying salary for the financial services sector at $3,500. These changes will be implemented for new applications from 1st September 2022 and for renewal applications from 1st September 2023. Similar to the EP, the qualifying salary for older S-Pass holders will be higher. Thereafter, we will raise the S-Pass minimum qualifying salary for new applications in September 2023 and in September in 2025. Each increase will apply to renewals a year later. The exact salary values will be announced closer to implementation date based on the prevailing local APT wages. But just to give a rough sense, based on current local APT wage levels, companies should expect the economy-wide S-Pass minimum qualifying salary to be at least $3,150 in September 2023 to at least $3,300 in September 2025. MOM will also progressively increase the S-Pass Tier 1 levy rate from $330 to $650 over 3 steps, again in tandem with the S-Pass qualifying salary increases. It will be raised to $450 in September 2022, and then to $550 in September 2023, and $650 in September 2025. The Tier 2 levy rate will be maintained at $650. As with the EP, the setting of a clear benchmark will give businesses clarity and predictability on how the S-Pass qualifying salary and levies will continue to adjust over time. Mr. Chairman, there has been concerns about the increase in qualifying salaries. Locals have asked if their foreign colleagues will automatically therefore get a pay rise at their expense. The short answer is no. Please let me explain. Take a firm that hires 10 employees, 9 locals, 1 S-Pass holder. These employees are all doing the same job, earning the same pay of $2,500. Will the foreigner immediately get a $500 pay increase just because of the increase in the qualifying salary? No. First, the higher qualifying salary will only apply to the EP and S-Pass renewals in September 2023. That's about a year and a half from now. I've earlier mentioned that this could even stretch out to September 2026, depending on when the S-Pass holder is due for renewal. That's about 4.5 years away at the other end. The firm will have ample time to think about alternative options. For instance, finding or training up another local. This is especially so if the foreigner is not bringing in enough value to justify the pay increase. Businesses are ultimately profit-driven, and they will not just blindly raise costs. Now, employers have said it is difficult to find locals in a particularly tight labor market given the low unemployment rate. But as I've said a few days back, there is still significant untapped supply from both women and seniors outside the workforce. And with our population rapidly aging, we also would want to encourage people to work longer when they are able to and should they choose to. My constant exhortation to everyone is to bring them back into the workforce, encourage them, give them an opportunity. If businesses can do more to redesign jobs, to make the jobs more flexible, more inclusive, I think they can attract more of these segments of workers. Next, there are quotas at the S-Pass level. If the firm insists on giving the S-Pass holder a pay increase without fairly reviewing the pay of its locals, it could find itself in a difficult situation. If the locals leave because of the pay discrepancy, the firm may find that it doesn't have enough quota to retain the S-Pass holder at the next renewal. And let us not estimate the negative impact on productivity of the company when employee morale is poor or if the company finds itself short-handed. Finally, what happens if, in spite of all this, employers still unfairly raise the foreigners' pay without fairly reviewing the pay of locals? We know on the ground there will be egregious cases such as these. In such situations, locals can take their grievances to TAFEP, and TAFEP will engage the firm to conduct a proper salary review. Because unfair remuneration practices run counter to the tripartite guidelines for fair employment practices. So you can see there's a whole thought process that the firm will go through. If after all of these, the firm still chooses to retain the S-Pass holder, it would be because the value that the S-Pass holder brings to their operations more than justifies the higher salary. On the other hand, suppose we left the S-Pass qualifying salary untouched at $2,500. Yes, the foreigner may not get the pay rise, but our local wages will stagnate as well. The firm can continue to renew the S-Pass holder on the lowest salary required as long as he's willing to accept it. And the firm will then have little reason to raise the pay for the other 9 locals who are doing the same job. As the Minister for Finance said in his roundup speech, keeping the cost of employing foreign workers low ultimately ends up depressing the wages of local workers. Some locals tell me they appreciate the need to raise the cost of hiring S-Pass holders, but ask us why we could not load it all on levies instead. In that way, the foreigner will not get a pay increase and the government will get more revenue. But let's just be clear here. We are already raising we are already increasing S-Pass levies. But you're asking us to increase it even more. It does sound like a solution that we can adopt, but why didn't we do it? Suppose we load all the cost increase onto levies. The levy would have to be much higher than the $650. And these levies will be applied equally to all S-Pass holders. The more productive firms that hire higher quality or high quality S-Pass holders well above the qualifying salary will face the same cost increase as less productive firms who are paying just the bare minimum. Both groups are equally affected. Raising levies makes no distinction or differentiation between them, between the productive ones and the non-productive ones. And if all firms have to pay more to the government, they will have therefore less to pay their workers. Will they still have the ability to incentivize their employees to take up new and bigger job roles as they transform? Members of the House, there are no perfect solutions. I hope that we do not let perfect be the enemy of the good. That is why, after weighing our options considerably and carefully, we moved, raising both the qualifying salary and the levies to safeguard good employment outcomes for our locals. We know that the changes to the S-Pass framework are not trivial, but we must do what is difficult now to build a stronger and a more inclusive economy for all. With the S-Pass moves, businesses that are reliant on low-cost S-Pass holders will have to adapt. They will have to redesign their operations to become more productive. They will have to improve the pay and working conditions for these jobs. And because of this, they will be in a stronger position to attract locals. I understand that SMEs are more constrained in terms of financial resources, and many are worried about these moves. I've previously spoken about how we will support SMEs through this transition. They can tap on schemes such as the Support for Job Redesign under the Productivity Solutions Grant to reskill existing employees and new hires to take on redesigned job roles. They can also tap on programs such as the CCPs. There are many of such schemes out there. SMEs will not have to undertake this transformation journey alone. We will walk with them. Let me now move on to the work permit changes. At the work permit level, migrant workers take on important roles which locals are less keen on doing. Yet COVID has shown us that it is not sustainable to continue to rely heavily on foreign manpower, especially at the semi-skilled level. Excessive reliance will leave businesses vulnerable to various disruptions. In order for our businesses to survive and thrive, they will need to transform, they will need to increase their productivity, and ultimately reduce their reliance on work permit holders. To support these transformation efforts, we will make further changes to the foreign workforce policies for the construction and process sectors from 2024. First, we will reduce the dependency ratio ceilings, or DRCs, for the construction and process sectors from 1:7 to 1:5, to nudge the sectors towards reducing reliance on migrant workers and improving the productivity of workers. That is a reduction from 87.5% to 83.3%. Second, we will dismantle the man-year entitlement, or the MYE framework, to reduce allocation inefficiencies. Third, we will revise the levy structure for both sectors to incentivize businesses to adopt more productive technologies such as design for manufacturing and assembly, DFMA, and employ more productive workers. Levies will be lowered for off-site construction and higher skilled workers. The Minister for National Development will share more in his COS speech. The changes will help support the sector's transformation and automation. To help defray costs to adopt automation, businesses can tap on grants such as the Enterprise Development Grant and the Productivity Innovation Project. The changes to our foreign workforce policies aim to strengthen the complementarity between local and foreign workforce at the EP and SPAS level, and to spur industry transformation at the work permit level. I understand that Mr. Cheng Shin Yao and Ms. Janet Ang suggested calibrating our foreign workforce policies further to address persistent shortages in certain sectors. We already do so today. Sectors such as construction and process have higher foreign worker quotas, as we recognize that fewer locals join these sectors. We also exercise flexibilities to support essential services like healthcare and the cleaning of public housing estates. Going forward, we will adopt an even more targeted approach by providing flexibilities to businesses that contribute to our economic priorities and in job roles where there are more pressing manpower needs but fewer locals. To support the growth of businesses that contribute to Singapore's strategic economic priorities, MOM is supporting MTI and participating economic agencies to launch the Manpower for Strategic Economic Priorities, or the AMSEP scheme. This scheme will provide such firms some flexibility to hire SPAS and work permit holders beyond the prevailing DRCs for a limited period of time. For a start, MTI and participating economic agencies will support firms that meet their criteria of undertaking ambitious investment, innovation, or internationalization activities. This would include firms that participate in existing schemes, such as ESG's Scale Up SG and EDB's Research and Innovation Scheme for companies. In addition to supporting our strategic economic priorities, we will require these businesses to commit to developing our local workforce. The details are being worked out, and we aim to introduce the scheme later this year. Now, in addition, we recognize that some businesses hire rank-and-file workers on SPAS due to the source restrictions for work permit holders. With the moves to increase the benchmark for SPAS quality, MOM will allow businesses in the services and manufacturing sectors to hire some of these SPAS holders on work permit. We will introduce a non-traditional source, NTS, occupation list, which is a tight list of rank-and-file occupations where employers will be allowed to hire NTS foreign workers on work permits. The list will be introduced on the 1st of September 2021. The list will include occupations such as welders, food processing workers, and specialty chefs. I know many enjoy the multivariate, the multicultural cuisines in Singapore. I hope that this will reinforce our position as a food paradise, supporting the cultural heritage of Singapore. The list will be subject to a quota, amongst other controls, and we will study carefully if more occupations should be added to the list. However, I would like to make it clear that this does not signal a broader liberalization of work permit sources across the board. The tripartite partners have a clear consensus on the importance of uplifting our local lower wage workers, whom the work permit holders directly compete with. Hence, we will continue to keep the work permit sources tight to support the efforts to uplift lower wage workers and the ongoing moves to be more manpower lean. Taken together, the two schemes, the MSEP and the NTS occupation list, will complement the changes we are making to our work pass framework by supporting the growth of businesses that contribute to Singapore's strategic priorities and ultimately creating good job opportunities for locals. Now, I've spoken at length about our upcoming moves. I've explained why they are necessary to restructure our workforce to prepare for the opportunities ahead and move towards a more equitable society. Many businesses, both local and foreign, whom I've spoken to, generally understand this. They have been very supportive and they want to be good, progressive employers. However, they also share two challenges. One, difficulties in finding workers, and two, increase in business costs. We take this feedback very seriously. One, on the difficulty in finding workers. I earlier touched on the schemes we have to address this. The calibrated reopening of our borders should ease some pressure. And as mentioned earlier, there's still untapped supply of various segments of our population, and businesses can do more to redesign the jobs to attract these segments of workers. On rising business costs, MOM has put in place measures to support our businesses. Our support measures will provide up to $6.8 billion to businesses in financial year 2022. This includes the provision of the Jobs Growth Incentive. We will also roll out transitional offsets for the increases to senior worker CPF contribution rates and transitional support for the moves to uplift lower wage workers. The moves are also timed carefully and implemented gradually to moderate the cost and manpower impact on businesses. At the same time, I also want to assure our fellow Singaporean workers that they will always be at the heart of our efforts. When we drive economic growth, we will also endeavor to create good jobs. Mr. Chairman, let me say a few words in Mandarin. 今年人力部所提出的新措施将着重于提高公有技能，发挥互补优势。我们要提升中年员工，并辅助弱势工友。我们也会继续提倡职场公平，促进一个更具有包容性的工作环境。我所接触的大部分雇主都能理解这些措施的必要性，但是也有部分来自中小型企业的雇主对这些新措施感到担忧。人才短缺和成本上涨的情况下，这时推出新措施，岂不是雪上加霜？我能够体谅也理解他们的顾虑，因此政府会从3方面帮助中小型企业。首先，我们依据中小企业的特殊情况，在外籍员工政策方面做出了适当的调整。在新的互补专才评估框架下，就是 Compass， 人力部在审批新的工作准证时，在审批新的工作准证申请时，除了考虑申请者的薪金和资历以外，也会考虑他所属公司的人力资源多元化程度，以及本地员工就业的支持。所有雇用少于25位专业和中级技术人员的企业，将在这两项与公司相关的考核标准方面呢，自动达标。第二，我们将根据行业与企业的需求，较灵活性的 处理外籍员工申请。比如，目前某些企业因为工作准证的限制，无法聘请所需的外籍员工。我们将允许服务和制造企业聘请来自非传统来源国家的外籍劳工，从事某一些本地员工所稀缺的职位，像精密工程、食品制造等等。与此同时，人力部也将支持贸工部推出的计划，为某些对我国经济发展做出重点贡献的企业提供额外的 S 准证和工作准证配额。这2项计划的细节，我将会在今年年底再公布。第三，我们将继续为中小型企业提供转型援助。有意进行自动化和企业转型的雇主，可以参加厂力提升计划、企业发展计划或中小企业数码化计划。上个月，劳动力发展局推出了中小企业执行人员转业计划，聘请本地中途转业者的雇主可享有高达90%的薪金补贴。这些只是众多计划中的一部分。我呼吁中小型企业善用援助计划，踏上转型的道路。新加坡是个没有天然资源的弹丸小国。自独立以来，建国的道路从未平坦。那时候，新加坡被比喻为在荒洋中的一条小渔船，随时可能被大风大浪卷走。我们的前辈靠着一股不屈不挠的精神，度过重重难关，推动新加坡前进。经历了数十年的风风雨雨，新加坡不断的发展和进步。我们不再是渔船，而是一艘稳固的大船。我希望企业能够秉持着先辈们那股自强不息的毅力，积极转型，让我们为本地员工创造一个更良好的就业前景，一同航向更美好的未来。Mr. Chairman, before I close, allow me to share one aspect of uplifting our workers, and which is to strengthen their retirement adequacy. As announced in the budget statement, we will do so in 3 ways. First, we will adjust the basic retirement sum to provide members with higher monthly payouts to keep pace with long-term inflation and rising standard of living. We expect more members to receive at least the basic retirement sum payout, with about 8 in 10 active CPF members turning age 55 in 2027 being able to do so. And this is up from 67% for the cohort that turned 55 in 2021. Second, we will implement the next step of the CPF contribution rate increase for senior workers. And finally, the enhanced Workfare Income Supplement Scheme will top up the income of 500,000 lower income workers with payouts amounting to over $1 billion in CPF and in cash from 2023. Mr. Patrick Tay asked in his cut about raising the wage ceiling for CPF contributions, and Mr. Heng Chee Hao also raised this at budget debate. We are encouraged by the union's support for the CPF system. The CPF wage ceiling has been periodically updated since 2003 to keep pace with wages of resident workers. The most recent update was in 2016. We will review the CPF wage ceiling and engage employers and employees ahead of any changes. These efforts are aimed at helping Singaporeans save more and boost their retirement income. This will, however, be meaningless if we do not continue to safeguard the savings that Singaporeans set aside for old age. And this is why we must carefully assess any calls for more liberal use of members' CPF monies. In a cut, Ms. Sylvia Lim suggested allowing members with CPF balances beyond the required retirement sum to make lump sum withdrawals from their CPF savings before age 55, highlighting those who face income disruption. The government already provides targeted and directed support to these members. For example, to help those who face financial hardship during this difficult period, we introduced an entire suite of support measures, including the COVID-19 Recovery Grant. Singaporeans will also receive support from existing broad-based permanent schemes, such as Workfare and Comcare. Importantly, all of these do not draw down on Singapore's CPF savings. And as Mr. Desmond Chu wisely highlighted, it will not come at the expense of retirement income. In his cut, Mr. Gerald Giam requested for additional flexibility for seniors to use CPF to purchase two-room flexi flats and to pay for the resale levy. Before members turn 55, they can request for their ordinary account savings not to be transferred to their retirement account if they intend to use it for housing. After they turn 55, members committed to a housing purchase may also use their CPF balances in excess of the basic retirement sum to finance the housing purchase. I would like to reassure Mr. Giam that the CPF board already exercises some flexibility for seniors facing financial hardship seeking to use CPF to purchase a two-room flexi flat. To pay for any resale levy, home buyers can use the proceeds from the sale of their first subsidized flat. Members who still face difficulties affording a property, including two-room flexi flats, can approach HDB for assistance. And I'm sure HDB will also work with relevant agencies like the CPF board to provide help to members based on their specific needs. Next, in his cut, Mr. Louis Chua suggested having members seek higher investment returns on their CPF monies by expanding the range of financial instruments available under the CPF investment scheme, or allowing members to invest alongside government investment vehicles. We have said this before, and I think Mr. Chua, coming from his financial background, should be very familiar that there's no silver bullet in achieving higher returns. Higher returns come with higher risks and a greater potential for losses. And this is true of any investment fund, and government investment entities are not immune to this. As Mr. Chu pointed out, there is volatility and uncertainty in the investment climate. Today, CPF members can already invest in a diverse range of products, including exchange-traded funds, shares, and gold products. The CPF board welcomes more ETFs to join the CPF investment scheme. However, ETF providers' decision to apply for inclusion are ultimately based on their own commercial assessment. To safeguard members' interests, the CPF board carefully considers factors such as investment-related fees and track record of the products before approving any such applications. And only products listed under the Singapore Exchange or registered with local authorities are included under the CPF investment scheme, as foreign products are subject to changing regulations in jurisdictions over which we have no oversight and no control. As Mr. Louis Chua mentioned, 75% of CPF investment scheme members made profits or broke even in the reporting period of financial year 2020. This means that 25% of members made cumulative total losses. So more product offerings do not necessarily equate to higher returns. To ensure that the list continues to remain relevant, the CPF board will continue to review it on an ongoing basis. It strikes a balance between allowing investment scheme participants, the CPF investment scheme participants, the flexibility to diversify their investment portfolios to enhance their retirement nest eggs while safeguarding members' interests. So we have to be very careful when striking this balance because it involves CPF monies which should be safeguarded for retirement. We are also studying if a lifetime retirement investment scheme can be introduced for members. It is meant for members with the risk appetite and sufficient investment horizon who may not wish to actively manage their investments, and we will provide further information and updates when ready. Meanwhile, members who prefer not to take any risks with their retirement savings already enjoy interest rates of up to 6% per annum on their CPF savings, where investment risk is entirely borne by the government. We will continue to look at how we can strengthen retirement adequacy for all of our members so that they can enjoy financial security in their later years. Let me conclude. We are making many moves to upgrade the capabilities of locals and complementarity of foreigners, uplift vulnerable workers and mature workers, and uphold inclusive and progressive workplaces. But we acknowledge there will always be more work to be done. But we will continue relentlessly to put in hard work, the hard work of supporting our workers and the businesses. Charting new waters is never easy. I'm sure members here are familiar with the teach a man to fish analogy to equip ourselves for the lifelong journey ahead. Well, the essence of what we have laid out today reinforces this, but it also acknowledges that the waters are choppier, the fishes are harder to come by and catch, and if we just stay put and we do not shift our anchor, we will soon run out of time and opportunity to fish. So we have courses. We have courses to teach you how to catch the harder to catch fish. We will equip you with upgraded equipment, give you all the advanced rods, the sonar equipment to upgrade you to fish, including using the new compass to guide you to bountiful sources of fish, notwithstanding choppier waters. With workers, with unions, with businesses and government on the same ship together, I have no doubt that Singapore will continue her voyage into an even brighter future. Thank you.